How you guys doing? You ready to get this one started? All right, this is going to be one of the most exciting episodes of Allcraft I think we have ever done. Thanks to all of you. We are here live from BlizzCon right after these announcements. My name is Rich. As usual, I will be your host, and joining me, we have the faces who made this happen. We have Hodded on the end of the table, and we have Asmongold.
How's it going, guys?
Give it up for Hodded. The man, the mad genius. We got Asmongold next to me here as well. And our very special guest, we have Jari to round out the panel.
Thank you very much.
Jari. All right, guys, we have a lot of stuff to get through.
We do.
It's time to get it started. I honestly think, well, in case you guys didn't notice.
Did you see they announced Classic service?
We're doing that at the end. We agreed we were going to do that at the end.
I just want to make sure you knew.
We promised to wait.
Okay,
We'll
I just
get
want to
to
let you
that
know.
in a little bit.
Okay.
But first, let's actually talk about, there's a new expansion announced.
Really?
Yeah.
Battle for Azeroth.
That's what it's called.
Oh my God.
Let's
Level
start with
120.
scaling. Level
Okay.
scaling.
So the way level scaling is going to work in Battle for Azeroth is that all of the old zones, like from the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, are all going to dynamically scale all the way up to 60. That's what Ian said. So the way that's going to work is if, like, let's say you're level 40, you still want to do dead mines for some reason, you can actually go back and do dead mines at level 40 and get level appropriate rewards for dead mines at that level. Now at 60, they're combining the, I guess, like the first 4 expansions. So what would it be? Outland and also Northrend would be combined. So you can level through Outland or you can level through Northrend, and you don't have to worry about out-leveling the zones, which is amazing. And they're doing the exact same thing for the Cataclysm zones and also the Mists of Pandaria zones for, I guess, 80 to 90.
So they're basically clumping up in sets of 2 expansions.
For now, yes.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So how do you think this is actually going to impact the game as far as gearing goes? Because we've never had anything like this where you have so many different things scaling up.
Well, you already got heirlooms, right? So
Yeah.
it's not going to make that big of a difference
That's true.
if they make, I don't know, like Dead Mines gear scale up to level 40, right? I don't think it's going to make a difference at all, honestly. I think it's going to be great for everybody because people like to go through the quests, and it gives them that personal connection to the quest, to the zones, to the game. So I think it's going to be better overall for people to be able to do the scaling stuff.
Especially with the bind and account leveling gear.
Yeah.
Usually you're too worried about out leveling the zones or just going through them too quickly. And now you'll just be able to experience everything, be chill, calm down, and just enjoy the actual quest zones.
Yeah, well, what actually makes this really special is if you're somebody like me who really enjoys going through the zones and, you know, you get through half the zone and you've already out-leveled the entire area and you need to move on to the next zone and you're not really gaining anything from continuing the quests, it means you can actually finish the zone and follow the story all the way through and just feel like that chronology of the game is there.
Yeah, speaking about that, it's also, I remember when I'm leveling new characters, I always remain with a lot of quests when I
Yeah.
switch to new zones. So now you actually get to finish them and enjoy the content.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where you actually feel like you're getting rewards when you're inside of the dungeons. Like I used to love going back and actually just leveling through dungeons. You know, sometimes we jump on a healer, get to play that and just heal through dungeons to level up. I actually level a lot as well as doing LFR, if you guys may not know that. But, so one of the things that's actually gonna be nice about it is you'll actively feel like you're getting rewards, which, you know, I usually would just stick to only the heirloom gear.
Well, it opens up the amount of things that you can get from the game, right? Because if you're able to queue up at, like, let's say, as I said, level 40, there are so many more dungeons that you can queue up and do. So let's say you level up and you do a zone and you completely out-level a dungeon like Razorfin Crawl or like Shadowfang Keep. You never get a chance to do that. But if you're level 40 and they have the zone scaling, you're able to do that at whatever level you want, under 60, and you can still get rewards from it that scale up, and they can still be rewarding.
I have a pretty big question to ask right now, and I don't know where this is going to go. So this is one of those moments on Allcraft where I kind of take a big gulp, maybe drink the BlizzCon water. But the question right now I have is, how do you think this is going to affect transmog farming?
I never thought of it.
He didn't think of it. All right.
Well, I mean, you're already doing bonus damage to everything, right? I mean, what's the difference between running a level 20 and a level 80 dungeon? Like nothing, really. And so it shouldn't make that big of a difference as long as it doesn't scale all the way up to the max level. So, I mean, honestly, I think it's going to be like, it's not going to change it at all, and it actually might make some of the BOE's prices lower because it's going to include more people in doing those dungeons, and because there's going to be more of those items put into the economy and not more people looking for them, that's going to drive the prices down.
Yeah, I think one of the things too that will be interesting as well is you can actually now maybe be transmog farming when you're actually leveling a character as well.
Two birds with one stone.
Two birds, one stone.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
We like to be efficient here. Now, one of the things we want to touch upon is actually the fact that you might be leveling up some new characters because allied races have been announced.
That's
So
right.
maybe that's how we'll actually be transmog farming, when we level up these new characters. So Zach, I'm going to give it to you first. What are the allied races that we're expecting to see?
So there's going to be 3 different allied races for each different faction. For Horde, there's going to be the Zandalari Trolls. There's going to be the High Mountain Tauren, and also the Nightborn, the ones that we see in like Suramar. For Alliance, we're going to get the Void Elves. We're going to get the Light Sworn Draenei.
Wait,
Lightforged.
Yeah, Lightforged Draenei, yes, Lightforged Draenei,
Okay.
and then also the Dark Iron Dwarves. So the way this is going to work is, as soon as you, I guess, encounter this faction or this group of people, you're able to do a number of quests that you can go through and pretty much like learn more about that different sub-race or allied race. And then after you finish all that, you can actually make one of those yourself. And it kind of works the same way as like DKs and Demon Hunters work, where they don't start at level 1, they're going to start at level 20. And if you level a character up from level 20 all the way up to 110, I believe it might be 120 whenever the expansion comes out, you're able to get a specific set of transmog gear, which for me is very exciting. And I'm really, really looking forward to that. And those are just the 6 that we're seeing right now. Will there be more? I would kind of assume so, but right now that's what we're seeing here. And that's basically what's going on with the sub-races.
And Sophia, this is also something that I feel like,
Yeah.
we talked about it a little bit last week on the show. I feel like this is one of the announcements where no one's upset. Like everyone's just like, yeah, I actually really want this. What do you think it actually is about the allied races that people are so excited to see?
Well, I think especially for me, like I come from a roleplay server, and people, you guys laugh. Don't laugh, okay? I'm not that nerdy, all right? I mean, I'm probably nerdier than all of you guys. But no, everyone, we want more diversity. You know, these players, they care really so much about the lore, and they care about the depth of World of Warcraft. And so being finally like able to be those characters just, it hits them at home, you know, that's where the heart is.
I also do want to say, you did just let out a chuckle. But when we were strategizing, aren't we, when we actually do get to Legacy, and we're not going to talk about Legacy just yet, but weren't we saying we were going to put the guild on a role-playing server?
Of course.
Yeah. That's
You know, role-playing servers, I like them in a way, right? I mean, even like Moonguard, you know, there are some good things about that server.
Just the
Goldshire.
Especially the end.
I
Yeah.
haven't gotten out of the end
Yeah.
yet. I can't beat that level. I don't understand it.
It's a really
yet.
hard one to beat.
Yeah. Also, no LFR for that end yet, so we'll see. We'll experience that content soon. But Alan, what do you think with actually getting the leveling quest for these allied races? Are you looking forward to that?
Oh, I'm actually just looking forward to being able to change the race of my Tauren. Like I can't wait
To a Tonka or like what?
to like
They don't have that
High
out
Mountain.
They don't have Tonkas yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet?
No, they said that
We
they
just
were.
ate some and
They're coming out with
like
6.
made that up.
They're coming out with 6
at the moment.
other races, and you'll be able to maybe get more in the future.
You see they have the totem in the back too?
Really?
Yeah. I think that's probably that's like the class armor.
Oh yeah,
that they're
that's the
gonna
best
have.
part.
Yeah, and also, if you didn't know, you can actually race change your existing characters to those allied races after you complete all of the quest lines for them. So it's not like you have to level up an entirely new character to play with them. You can also race change over, or you can level it up yourself. You can do either one.
Well, let's do a little bit of predicting though. So what do you think that the quests are actually going to look like? Because I personally really want to see them be kind of difficult.
I don't think they're going to be.
I don't
personally.
either.
I mean, because it's meant for basically every single person. It's baseline gameplay that we're going to see everybody go through. It's going to be, I would say, I mean, because we're not going to have like the class order hall quest lines in the Battle for Azeroth like we did in Legion. So I would kind of use the sub races and allied races. I don't know what they're calling them, allied races. Allied races as the new version of the class order hall quest lines, and that's probably what I would expect to see in terms of the length and also the difficulty.
Yeah, maybe it'll also tell them like along the lines of, okay, you completed this task. Thank you so much for your help. Join our team.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
I really almost want it to be, and I agree, it's probably not what we're going to see.
Right.
But I feel like I want it to be, even if it's not at that difficulty level per se, but the style of what we saw coming out for the artifact appearances.
Well, I think that's the most important thing. You see something like the Dark Iron Dwarves or the Zandalari Trolls. They have 10 years, 15 years, because some of them were involved in Warcraft 3, of lore to go through. So I can almost expect and guarantee, really, that they're going to have a very, very immersive and very lore-driven storyline, and that's going to kind of tie up a lot of the loose ends, because the Dark Iron Dwarves and also the Zandalari Trolls have been at war with the different Alliance and Horde factions. So, I mean, there's a lot to go over. I think it's going to be amazing.
You touched on a big point, too, here. When we start to talk about the lore, we start to talk about the history. We're kind of going back to our roots a little bit in this new expansion. We're going to see Horde versus Alliance being the focal point again. Well, what does it feel like for you, Hada, to kind of be back home? It's happened a few times, though, in the past. Like, we've had expansions that have been like, okay, Horde versus Alliance coming out of the gates is going to be the focus. Do you like the fact that we're headed back here?
Yeah, I think so. Like, as far as like if you take into consideration from a PvP standpoint, I think the world PvP is going to be pretty spicy. So I'm looking forward to it.
Spicy and very controllable. Like, that's the other thing that's a little bit
Oh yeah, like they said that each faction is going to be leveling in their own zone, and then afterwards you will unlock the new content or the new zones that will be mixed.
Yeah, so you basically, you have that, right? So the fact that it's Horde versus Alliance this time around is actually going to have probably the biggest impact that we've seen it have before in an expansion. I mean, the last time I really think about it is like Mists of Pandaria.
Well, Cataclysm, that's what they tried to do in a lot of ways with Cataclysm, is try to fan the flames in a Horde versus Alliance conflict, and that was more hit and miss. And then Mists of Pandaria came in with the Operation Shield Wall and all that 5.1 stuff, which was actually very, very well done. But now that we're seeing an entire expansion built apparently completely around the faction conflict, even with the cinematic, we didn't see like Illidan, we didn't see Deathwing, we didn't see the Lich King, Arthas, anything like that. We just saw the different factions fighting. So I think that's going to be absolutely return to form to the original Warcraft games and what people really like to see in terms of the Horde and Alliance conflicts. And I just think it's going to be great in general.
Yeah, I actually feel exactly the same. Like, it kind of brings you back to the heart of Warcraft and what it is in essence. It's the Horde versus the Alliance, and it's kind of what we all want and what we all feel, you know?
That's the war part.
Can we talk a little?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we talk a little bit about the cinematic? Oh my God.
Well, the thing then was, I actually feel like when I watched Sylvanas, I was like, is this confirming Void? Like, is she a Void Elf?
Well, no, she's not a Void.
Banshee queen.
Yeah,
That's what she did.
Because that's the title.
That's her form, you know?
She turned into a Banshee.
Yeah, she's a Banshee.
I didn't know what that was. I thought it was some
Well,
Void Elf.
Ilaria is the Void Elf.
Yeah, she's a Banshee, and she reanimated her body, her corpse, so that's why she looks like herself. But in essence, she's a Banshee.
All right.
She's cool as hell.
All right. I knew that. I was just
You were just testing me, right?
I'm glad we figured that one out. But yeah, no, it's definitely really awesome. But when we look at stuff that was Horde and Alliance in the past, I actually feel like a lot of it was really strong. Like 5.1 when you bring that up. But the thing with 5.1, I didn't necessarily feel like the strongest drive of it was the Horde and Alliance thing. I really felt like it was the way that it was gated, the way that it actually did come out. We actually talked about 5.1 a little bit when I believe it was actually when the current patch came out and the way that they had stuff go down. And we're talking about like the way that 5.1 felt.
Well, 5.1 was a very good patch because not only did it bring in a bunch of new like different catch-up mechanisms and mounts and pets and stuff, it changed Karasang Wilds, and it focused more on, as I said, the faction conflicts, and that made it a lot easier to transition into 5.3, which is whenever Garrosh, we had the storm Siege of Orgrimmar, right? And it made a lot of sense because it built up to that. And one of the big questions that I have for the Battle for Azeroth, new expansion, is are we going to see any sort of large-scale, very big boss for us to fight? You know, because usually the big boss that we're supposed to fight and work towards is on the box. And I don't think that it is this time, so
That's
I'm
kind of
really
the
curious.
trend, is moving away from that more and more, and we've talked about that on the show, is, you know, you used to expect to see the bad guy on the boss and go,
That's
okay,
right.
this is exactly what I'm doing, you know, and when you think about different things, like even Warlords of Draenor, there were people on the box that you were like, do I like them, do I not like them, sure, but there wasn't necessarily that one figure. Mists of Pandaria, there was just a friendly neighborhood panda on the box.
I wish we could have killed him.
Yeah. You know, he's the ultimate end boss of World of Warcraft.
I think
hope so.
another thing I want to say about everything is that for the people that watched the What's Next panel, they showed the heroes or like the main figures of the story, and they had Thrall in there, and they kind of like said that he could maybe do an appearance.
Hey, they also had Vol'jin in there.
Well, yeah, rest in peace.
Oh my goodness, my heart.
When I actually saw, like I had a moment when I was watching the cinematic when you see like the hand reaching out for the sword, where I was like,
You didn't know.
Yeah.
You didn't know. I was honestly curious. Then you saw like Anduin with like the lion face guard. That was amazing. And like Greymane was glorious. Like that hair, it was like an actual wolf.
Well,
I don't know. It was amazing.
We've talked too about Greymane and Sylvanas and that being one of the arcs that we wanted to see a lot out of, and we felt like it kind of started in Legion. But do you think that's going to be one of the center focal points when we do jump in the next expansion?
Well, how could it not be, right? I mean, so the cinematic, for anybody that doesn't understand what's going on or didn't see it, it's basically Anduin and Greymane storming Lordaeron, and they're attacking Sylvanas, and that opens up a huge amount of possibilities because, as a lot of people might know, Lordaeron used to be an Alliance city before Arthas basically destroyed it and like killed his father, right? And so I could see maybe we could, I don't know, like maybe retake it. That would be amazing, though.
I mean, look, the PvP stage right now. If you guys actually got a chance to see the PvP stage here at BlizzCon, we know that that's going to be the focus because that's like how the stage looks. You know, there were like a lot of people walking around. They were like, "Why does the stage look like that?" Some like the
little emblems.
Yeah. So like that was a really cool thing to actually see as well. But I want to get back to actually looking at how this Horde versus Alliance conflict is going to affect the entire expansion. It starts off with the actual leveling zones when we do jump in there for the first time. So we're going to see 6 zones coming out in the next expansion. 3 for Horde, 3 for Alliance. So this is one of the most different systems than we've ever seen at the start of the expansion.
Well, they're not only going to be for Horde and Alliance. It's just going to be for leveling purposes in the same way that I think there were other expansions where, like, I think in Mists of Pandaria, the Horde started at the top of Jade Forest and the Alliance started at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's probably what it's going to be.
In
and
Wrath,
then there's
you had a choice, right? But
well, you could go to
factions
Howling
had the
Fjord,
choice.
or you could go over to Borean Tundra, but both people could, both factions could choose that.
So this is definitely going to be a big change though, when we actually do jump in at level.
Well, they also have faction-specific dungeons on top of that, not just for the zones, but actual for specific dungeons.
So with the dungeons though, do you get a chance as the opposite faction to eventually get
I'm sure that you will.
Yeah, I'm sure at 120 you'll be able to visit those dungeons, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's one of those things though where it is going to make the leveling experience feel very different, right? In WoD, obviously your garrisons felt like a lot different, but this seems to have a much bigger effect. Do you like that though for the storytelling aspect of the game to have the factions actually feel different?
Yeah, I think it's very important that they obviously feel different so that when you do play, you know, Alliance or Horde, you get a very different experience. Obviously, each time you level, it's like endless content, right? So it's absolutely so important that you get that.
Yeah, I also do like the fact though, and I feel like we will see them kind of come in the late game for everyone. I feel like everyone, even if you only want to play Alliance, you should be able to see the entirety of the game.
No, I 100% agree. Like I think experiencing and seeing all the design perspectives that the developers show and like they want you to see on either Alliance or Horde, it's nice for you to experience everything, even if it's not your first character, but the second one or third, and just go through them.
And now, also with this new system, we're also going to be seeing different things like islands and warfronts. So these, to me, seem like they are going to be huge. Basically building on the ideas that we saw in Legion of invasions and like building them up, adding some of the aspects that we've seen from scenarios. I'm thinking mostly about the islands right now. I feel like that's how they are going to feel. And then Warfronts is basically just AV that doesn't take you a week and a half. So like I feel like that is really, like I still go into AV all the time, not all the time, but relatively frequently.
Kill rams.
And just kill rams and build myself sweaters. But I do feel like islands are the first thing that we should talk about here. I'm really excited to see what they actually look like.
And how exactly is that supposed to work? I wasn't entirely sure how that does work.
So from my impression right now and how I'm kind of imagining it is we're going to, because the big feel and the reason that it's Horde versus Alliance, after everything that actually happens, everybody's trying to fight for their stake of land. So I imagine we have these little areas, and I feel like they're going to spawn like invasions kind of do. Like more like they'll be on the map, and those will be the areas that are under contest. And then maybe like scenario like thing, because when we see war fronts, they're going to have those PvE and PvP elements kind of intermingled and married.
No, I wonder if the war fronts will show for Alliance and Horde, and then like whoever clears the warfront or ends up victorious will get a bonus.
I think there's supposed to be dynamic zones that you're able to take over, and the people that control those dynamic zones have more control over getting different resources, and that goes all the way back to vanilla WoW whenever you were in Silthius or Slithis or whatever, and you were able to control different zones and bring different items, the sand, over to your faction, and that would give you different buffs and stuff. And so we can see that going all the way back to vanilla WoW, and it's really cool to see them implementing it again.
That's awesome.
Where world PvP actually does have some sort of an impact, and PvP in general has an impact outside of just more prestige levels or something very basic like that.
Well, the thing is now is we actually kind of get the opportunity to be like, how do we want this to work, right? Because
Right.
it's still, a lot of it's up in the air. We're running on pure hype right now, and it's been a really exciting day, but throughout the weekend we'll definitely find out more and more and more. But because we get to talk about it so early here on Allcraft, we can start to make some of these predictions and actually start to say what we want, because obviously they're listening, because we got
Yeah.
legacy servers. I still don't, every time I say it, I feel like I'm like being dumb. Like I just can't even believe that it's real, but like they are listening, so we can start to talk about it just a little bit. What do you want to see coming out of First Islands?
The First Islands, I really like the idea of being able to go into dynamic areas and fight different raid bosses and different challenges. And I think that's also something that we're going to be seeing with Warfronts, where you're able to take, I believe, 20 people and you're able to fight NPCs. And it's kind of going to be like sieging. I think it's going to be like sieging Wintergrasp or sieging Tol Barad. And I'd like to see more things like that, where you can take groups of people in and actually just accomplish different things. And even if it's something as simple as the garrison invasion bosses in WoD, something that gets people playing together and gets people interacting, I think is always going to be positive for the game.
Yeah, so the big thing, Sophia, is that everyone on this panel plays the game in a very different way and historically has tried out different aspects of the game. You being one of those players who might not play the same way as like Hotted, for example, are you excited to see some of this PvP actually get put into PvE elements of the game as well?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, even though I play definitely a lot more casually than you guys, I still have the same love for the game, and I still try out every element of the game.
Yeah.
Like, for me, those kind of like open world PvP scenarios where you can all get involved in something is something that I particularly like. Kind of like as well, Ashran was a great example of something that I really enjoyed getting involved in.
Yeah, I think that is the cool thing about it, because it's not necessarily, I feel like a lot of people like love world PvP but don't necessarily want to jump into the arena.
I wonder what kind of rewards we can get for, for controlling Warfront.
That's a huge question, right?
Transmog?
I feel like it's going to be bigger than that. I feel like it's going to be more along the lines of what we actually saw coming out. Like, look how big the rewards are right now for like Argonite. Right, you take that Argonite, and it's basically the biggest catch-up mechanic.
Yeah.
And I feel like something like this somewhat echoes that, and maybe we actually see them be catch-up mechanics throughout the entirety of the expansion. I'm not sure if it's ever going. I don't think it will be the place where you really push item level ever. I think that's still going to be focused on mythic dungeons and raiding, but we're going to hear more about those soon. I think that, and this is somewhat of a tangent, and we'll bring it back to these islands and Warfronts. I think when we actually do get a chance to see what mythic dungeons and raiding are going to look like, I'm very curious to see how the gear looks and if it's going to be more balanced towards mythic dungeons this time, or if it's still going to have that primary focus on raiding. I think that's the biggest fulcrum shift that we can actually expect to see when we do jump into a new expansion, because mythic dungeons they're brand spanking new still. I mean, we've had them for what, a year? I don't do math ever, but it's been a little while.
Year and a half if you count beta.
Okay, yeah, sure, we'll count
And
beta.
challenge modes. I mean, challenge modes were in a lot of ways the first iteration of Mythic
Indeed.
Dungeons, and those were added in Mists of Pandaria.
Sure.
I think that the rewards that we could probably expect to see would be somewhere around Ashran, like what Sophia was saying, with the different, like if you did Ashran, you could get a bunch of crappy gear, right? And once a week, you could get a couple of really nice pieces. And I think that's probably what we would expect to see coming out of the Warfronts, because they're very easy to get into, and I'm sure Blizzard is aware of the fact that if they make something give really, really good rewards that doesn't take a huge time investment, people are going to do it even if they don't like it. That's the worst kind of gameplay.
It turns into Maw of Souls, right? And we already saw that was something that happened, and it was instantly squashed. Like, that's not something that they want to do. Just
not before I got 54 traits.
Hey, good for you, though. Good for you.
It was a lot of fun.
I think we're caught up now. I think I have as many traits as you at this point. So we'll actually have to see if that is something that we do see. Like, I think that the rewards, though, when we do see these PvE elements, they're not just going to be something like PvP gear, though. I think that they will have big implications in the PvE realms as well.
Well, potentially, if you're able to take over those different faction areas, it'd be great if those could unlock vendors that had PvP gear, right? I'd love to see PvP gear come back into the game in some facility that's deterministic, where you can just talk to a vendor and buy an item. That's something that would be amazing. If they did that with like a rating requirement, that would also be good, but just some level for people to have something that they can go home towards and work towards in a specific way.
We've talked about that too.
Absolutely.
Having deterministic things that you can actually have that high level of control over. One of those, and we already touched upon it, was artifact power. And we talked about that probably a million times on Allcraft. I feel like pretty much every episode we talked on it. So now we have an idea of how that system is going to work. It's not going to be necessarily, it's definitely not attached to your weapon. It's going to be attached to a medallion. I don't think we're sure if that's equipable or not.
I'm pretty sure it's not going to be.
It seems
so
like it's not.
called the Heart of Azeroth, and you're able to, it's pretty much the artifact power system, from the best of my knowledge. It's the artifact power system without the artifact power weapon. Right, so you don't have Ashbringer, you don't have Stromkar, or whatever, Ebon Chill. You just have this system that you can level up throughout the expansion. Now, is it going to have the same system that we have with Concordance, or is it going to be limited in the way that we saw it with Nighthold? If I was going to guess, I would say that would probably mirror the system that we have right now, because Blizzard was very worried because they didn't want people doing, I think it was 950 Maw of Souls runs, and that's not something that they want to have people do because it's inherently not fun.
Well, I think they kind of figured out that happy place right now with artifact knowledge as well. Like the way artifact knowledge has actually been coming out changed quite a bit. Now you just kind of passively get it each week, so you don't have to have, like, there were plenty of times where I felt like guilt when all of a sudden I didn't have service because I was casting a PvP tournament or something, and it was like, oh, I gotta give it
missing out on your Mythic Quest dungeons and World Quests.
I mean, it's something that happens. I mean, I still miss chests every now and then, and like I can deal with that. But when you're falling behind on artifact knowledge as well, it got a little bit.
Well, it was great that they added artifact knowledge in to be something that happens like independent of your character. So you don't have to place orders, or you don't have to do anything. It just scales up, and that's great not only for people that don't have a lot of time to play, but also for alts.
Questions that I have right now for Sophia and Alan, when we actually look at medallions, and starting with you, Alan, do you think that they should have something that mirrors a relic slot, even if they're not equipable? Do you think that you should, throughout the expansion, be actually putting items into them, or do you think it should just be a baseline thing that you don't need to touch, that you're just getting stats from?
That's a complicated question, but I think
really complicated. So I give it to you.
I don't know if you
can say.
Oh, I was going to give you a complicated one next. Asmongold already had the hard ones.
Well, I don't know if you'll be able to attach stuff to a medallion. I think maybe just, it's a really complicated question. I'm not sure.
Dude,
I don't
like
see myself
relics?
equipping. I do like relics. I like the fact that you have different choices, such as increasing, for example, Solar Wrath's power or dot power, and just trying to focus your spec that way. So maybe orientating your medallion in that regard seems like a good choice to be able to be diverse.
Now, because Legion is in the past, and we can start to actually get new things as well. Obviously, the system's slightly new, but it, like Asmongold already said, it could somewhat mirror the artifact weapon. So you could just basically have, okay, eventually you're going to have all the traits. You didn't necessarily need to make decisions. The only time that the decisions were actually made into the artifact weapon were when you were leveling, right? You were like, okay, this is really good now. Eventually, though, I'll come back and I'll get all the golden traits. Would you like to see that portion actually repeated on medallions, or would you rather see something more along the lines of an old school talent tree inside the medallion?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. You know, there's kind of like two kinds of players, right? There's the player that likes the old school kind of way where everything was very, very complex and there was a lot of choices. And there's the player that likes it to be very, you know, simple for them. You know, they don't have to worry too much about checking how to spec their artifact weapon or whatever. And I guess I'm kind of in the middle. I started playing in 2008. So I know what it's like to have some complicated talent trees, but obviously now I feel like as playing casually, I can go into it without worrying too much. So something probably in the middle will be good.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool as well if you don't necessarily go all the way back to something that you would see, like all the people right now in chat spamming legacy servers want to see, right? We don't need to go all the way back there, but maybe having some choices that actually last a little bit longer than just the leveling experience.
Well, the choices that last longer are good. The problem is whenever you have, like, everybody's always going to find out the best path to take, the best thing to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
So with your artifact weapon, it's like if you went left, you were really good, and if you went right, you were an idiot. You know, and that's basically what would happen with a lot of the different artifact power weapons. And it didn't really matter unless you were playing in like a raiding guild, but there's always going to be that one thing that people are going to trend to and do. Now, does that mean it's a deterrent for making a more open system for people to make more choices? No, it's not. But it's also something to be mindful of, that there's always going to be the cookie cutter option that most people are going to go along with, even if it's not the most fun.
Yeah.
Speaking about old town systems, I'm one of the guys that do miss having different choices and being unique and having your spec be different, or being able to sort of like theory craft what could be good in certain scenarios and against certain comps, for example, in PvP. So seeing like sort of like an iteration of an old town tier system or town system would be really good.
I would love that.
Yeah,
man.
well, I'll be completely honest. What I want to see when I actually look at how, I think that there was one, everyone's going to laugh, probably all of you here and everyone on the internet's definitely already making fun of it, but I think that the perfect spec throughout the entire expansion for this current tier mostly was BM Hunters. Now, wait for just a second. So the reason that I really thought BM Hunters hit what Legion was trying to do very well was because you could actively change your playstyle based off of which legendaries you wanted to use and based off of stats. You could either go into like a stomp build or you could go into the dire frenzy build. Now, I'm not saying that BM in and of itself was perfect, but the fact that you could actually choose how you play and both of them perform
Dynamic
at a similar
gameplay.
level. They perform at a similar level to each other, but they're very different. The playstyles are going to be different, and all of a sudden you look at one class and you can make these huge changes in the way you play. I would love to see that. That was the thing that highlighted the legendary system. And one of the things when you look at talent trees, it's you either go that route where you have, and it's just so hard to balance. And that's one of the reasons you can't see it all the time, because people are trying to min-max, right?
Yeah, of course.
But the thing is if you have something that's competing at a similar level that has different play styles, that gets very interesting with talent trees. But the other thing that could be interesting too is when you have those utility things. Like, for example, when you put on your transmog farming gear, what are you looking for? You're not looking for strength, you're looking for
fast.
speed. It's the gotta go fast set. And things like that can matter in the game in other ways as well, besides just things like transmog.
Well, it's funny, it's fun things to do. And the only thing in the game, I think that Blizzard has transcended this in a lot of ways with WoW, is that people play the game in an entirely different way now. People play the game to farm for different pets, they farm for mounts, they farm for transmog.
The new meta.
The new meta. They farm for, they try to kill new mythic raid bosses, they play with their friends casually, they do PvP, they do battlegrounds only. There are all these different ways to play the game now that are all kind of independent. So just because something doesn't increase your damage doesn't necessarily mean that it won't be useful for somebody. Like an item like Agrimar's Stride that makes you run really fast isn't that great whenever you're just sitting there hitting a target dummy. But if you're trying to move around and trying to clear an old raid to maybe get invincible or something, it can be really useful. And I think that Blizzard should be aware of that.
I would also like to see more items like Agrimar's Stride than Unstable Arcana Crystal. For example, I think that there is something special about those items that transcends just feeling good because of stats. Like, yes, stats feel good, throw them at my face, but at the same time, I do want to see those special abilities and actually get to play around them and make unique builds.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the best things about like some of the end tiers in the previous expansions is you get like all these crazy trinkets and crazy weapons like Girthlak that summons tentacles whenever you Blade Storm or something, and you have like 5 tentacles that are just one-shotting people one after another. It's amazing. So I'd like to see more stuff like that, and I think that's what they were trying to go for with the legendary system in Legion. Now, obviously, it had a lot of shortcomings, and we're going to have to see where it's going to go in the new expansion, but that was I believe that was the goal, was to have different legendaries that would change your playstyle in various different ways. And I think that that goal is a very, very good one.
Yeah, I've personally said that my thing with legendaries was I loved the system itself. Like, I actually loved the items, but I didn't necessarily love the way that they were acquired.
Yes.
And I feel like legendaries are probably the elephant in the room right now. We don't know too much about them yet.
We do not.
But we actually probably know nothing about them yet. I expect that throughout the next day or so, we'll start to get some of this information. So the thing with Legendaries is, what do we want to see? Like, Sophia, what would you want to see coming out of Legendaries when we move into the next expansion? Do you want to see the system come back?
I mean, for Legendaries, I guess I like how it was originally, that a Legendary really felt legendary. It's not that, oh, you know, I'm really lucky, I did this dungeon and the best in slot Legendary dropped, or I got this Legendary and it's not so good, you know. I like the epicness of, you know, like doing Ulduar and collecting the fragments, or, you know, that's to me what a Legendary is, and it needs to be legendary in its core.
So basically, you're going back to like the older system of Legendaries, because the Legion system was very different than all of those. But do you think that there's a place, let's say that we jump in and all of a sudden the next Legendary that we see mirrors something like Uldar, what we saw in Firelands, or what we saw in ICC, sure, that system may come back. Maybe the system comes back that everyone's getting like a baseline ring or a baseline cloak. But do you think that there's still a place for the Legendary system as it was in Legion to exist, even if they aren't Legendaries, even if they're epics or something like that? Do you still think there's a place for it?
Like, I personally don't like that system.
You don't?
At all.
Only if they're VOE.
Like, you know, even
VOEs?
even I want the Legendaries to be kind of class specific again, or, you know, like role specific. Like, I don't want everybody to have a Legendary, and I don't want to, you know, have someone look through my gear and be like, you know what, you can't come to the raid because a Legendary just hasn't dropped for you yet. You know, I want the Legendary to be just for the rogues, or, you know, just for the healers, and that's how it should be for me.
Well, that's a really good point, is that Legendaries, and this is what's happened in Legion to a large extent, but even more so in Warlords of Draenor and also Mists of Pandaria, is that the Legendaries turned from being a reward from raiding into a requirement to raid.
Exactly.
So what was going to happen is that at the end of WoD, it's like if you're trying to get into an HFC run and you didn't have the ring, you aren't in a raid.
No.
So it adds another barrier that's supposed to be a reward, and it turns out to be this arduous, frustrating gatekeeping issue. And I would love to see Legendaries go back to being a reward from raiding rather than a requirement, because if you can get them through any other way besides raiding, you're going to be expected to have them in some degree. It's similar to the AP and what you had in Nighthold with the 54 traits.
Well,
you're going to be expected to have them, and if you don't have them, the people that do are going to get spots over you. And I think that Blizzard needs to be very careful in creating those different gatekeeping systems.
To tie that up with a bow too, really what both of you kind of touched upon is the fact with the old system, it was something that you got at the end of the tier, and it wasn't necessarily a requirement to get into the tier. That's part of it. And so if the Legendary system can kind of feel like that, maybe it becomes a little bit more inclusive. I feel like this is one of the things that I'm actually most eager to hear about, that and class design. Class design's always kind of the thing where it's like, wait, what's going to happen? Like, that's always probably the nuttiest announcements for me. I'm still hoping that Affliction Warlocks get Shadow Bolt back, if anyone's listening. But that's just like personally something that I wait for every year. But we'll see if that happens. But one more thing that I definitely want to touch upon. There are two more things, but I think everyone knows what the last one is. So rule sets going to be baseline across servers. This is probably one of the biggest changes I think that you could just have, period, because this is something that has been there since the beginning of time, essentially. So now, Zach, if you want to actually describe how this is going to work, go ahead.
So, and they've already diluted PvE and PvP servers before. In Vanilla WoW and Burning Crusade, you weren't even able to transfer over to a PvP server if you leveled on a PvE server, because they said it would be too easy, and then you could just go to max level and go and gank low-level players. But what they're changing now is they're making all of the different servers under the same rule set. So the way that that's going to work is that you're able to toggle PvP on and off, and I'm assuming that you're probably going to have to be in an inn for that, or somewhere in a city. And then after you go out of that city, you're going to be placed in a different phase or a different shard with all other players that have that same PvP toggled on or off. So it's not going to be a system where you just go in and you're the only PvP flagged guy and you've got all these bonuses and nobody else has PvP flag, and so there's no sort of risk. If you're PvP flagged, you're going to be seeing other people that are PvP flagged, and if you're not, you're going to be seeing other people that are not.
You definitely, like, if that system comes in place, I really do think that people that are PvP flagged and are taking the risk should be rewarded, and they have to find out probably like a certain balance. I don't know if it's like if they could get more experience, or if they could get a higher drop rate, or
I think
whatever
you get
can
your
be.
honor talents enabled, because like right now, if you're just in the open world, you don't have your honor talents active unless somebody from the other faction hits you or you're dueling. But what they're going to change is that I believe they're going to make it to where your honor talents are active whenever you're in a toggled area for world PvP.
Now, let's say, okay, so inherently, if that happens,
Yes.
you get a huge power bonus for doing it,
Yes.
which is something that is going to be
More
very
risk,
appealing.
more reward.
Yeah, and you can basically take that power bonus that you are getting, and you could in theory quest faster. Maybe you get something like enhanced PvP or enhanced experience, and also you get to gank people, which is pretty sweet. But Sophia, if they actually put some icing on the cake and give rewards alongside of it, how far would you want to see them go? Would you want to see maybe additional gear dropping? Would you like to see it stop at maybe something like additional experience or added power level? Where do you think it should go?
Like honestly, like I don't necessarily think that there needs to be that much of a reward. I'm happy with just the honor talents, because for me, world PvP and ganking people is like its finest, right? It's a reward in itself, Like there's nothing more fun than just getting that guy. You're all leveling with your buddies, and then there's one guy. You're like, get him, get that guy. That's fun enough.
Unless you see the tune is named Rich Campbell, please stop. I don't understand. I really don't understand why.
It's great. Like you have a hard day at work, you fail a test at school, you come home, you get on a rogue, and you go kill 60s in Hellfire Peninsula. It's the best. Like,
Wow, you're a savage. You're awful.
Yeah, I've had practice. I've done a lot.
Oh,
So, all right, let's just do it. Let's talk about legacy servers.
oh.
We've been waiting for a little while to talk about legacy servers. Zach, we're not going to let you talk for the rest of the segment. So if you can mute your microphone.
I can just make faces. Yeah.
All right, we're going to actually start with you, Alan. We're going to let Zach think about what he wants to say. How are you feeling about legacy servers being announced?
Well, the second whenever J. Allen Brack started talking about ice cream flavors, it came to mind, maybe he could announce that. And then like when I saw Chromie doing the cinematic, I was just in shock. I could not believe that it would be announced. And I think it's awesome. I think the people that are new to the game, they haven't experienced the thing that Zach, for example, has experienced, like just entering World of Warcraft from the beginning and just learning the game and experiencing how awesome the content was at level 60. And then after that, like if they enjoyed it, which I'm sure they will, they can always keep progressing on other servers.
I think the big thing too that I feel like I actually legitimately never thought it would happen. Like one of the big things that I always say is like be really loud in a constructive way and kind of say this is what I want to see, and like if you tweet it at us or like to anyone on Allcraft, like we'll try to push it to the right people, and like if you're actually giving constructive feedback, we'll try to make it heard. But every time someone typed a legacy server, I was like, oh no, like it's never gonna happen. Let's focus on but it did. Like I just can't believe
I didn't expect it to happen either. I would always make promises. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'll do a 24-hour stream if they do legacy servers. And I'm never going to have to do that. Well, here we are. Oh, my God.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm now that it is announced, I'm super excited, and I'm currently looking for a guild.
I'm making a guild.
I want to be a Scarab Lord so
Allcraft
bad.
guild?
I mean, that's like the big thing.
Wait,
Like,
do you
I really
think we'll be able to get it?
So this is the question, right? Because like right now, it seems like it is something that's pretty far out.
Oh my
So
God.
we don't know everything that's going to happen. So what do we want to see? Do we want to see this stay crystallized forever in Magic vanilla land, or do we want to see somewhat progressive systems coming in and maybe halfway through let's say it comes out like late into like an expansion, for example, then halfway into the next expansion, maybe you see Burning Crusade. Like, do you want to see this progress?
Well, that would be ideal. And I think the best way that they could implement it is if they release the legacy servers in the lull at the end of the expansion. Where in HFC, I'm not really expecting to have like a 14-month break or 16 whatever month break between Antorus and a new expansion, but to release it in that lull to where people who were losing a little bit of interest with the game would be able to go back to legacy servers and play them and enjoy them as well. Now, should they release expansions for them? Absolutely. And I think the reason, or the way that they're going to know if they're going to do that, is how many people play on them, and more importantly, how many people stay. There was a lot of, I guess, controversy and people not really kind of thinking that people would stay, and I would honestly assume that 80 to 90% of the people that start playing on the legacy servers will probably quit. But I'm thinking that there's going to be millions of people that are going to want to play on those servers. So even if all of those people quit, there's still going to be a very healthy community. And whenever they do introduce the, let's say a Burning Crusade server, they could just redo a vanilla server after that with like kind of a progression system in the same way that we see with Diablo 3 seasons.
I want to hear this from all of you too, because I'm going to use an analogy right now. We know these usually go terribly awry, but let's say for your birthday, you were given a pony and a Lamborghini, right? All right, think about it. Think about it, because those are both things that everybody wants, ponies and Lamborghinis.
Okay.
So now you need to decide what you want to ride, your pony or your Lamborghini. So you would ride the Lamborghini every time.
Lamborghini.
So let's say that the Lamborghini is now 8-0. But no, the big question is they're different, right? They're very different experiences, but at the same time they both take you places. And but sometimes when you're this is terrible. So you're
terrible analogy. Who got this guy on the
you want to do both, right? That's what you're saying. And so because like
how
sometimes
are you going to split your play time between Legacy and 8-0?
Well, that's why they put it out. That's why they put it out during the lull, so people don't have to split their time and they can just go over to that and they're going to be happy. So that's why. And it's like sometimes if I had a Lamborghini, sometimes I might want to ride the horse too. You know, like ride the horse down to C-Mart or 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee. Like that sounds great.
Outside of Taco Bell every time.
Well, yes, so everybody knows I have it.
No, exactly.
Of course.
Exactly. So I think that's the main thing, though, is we already start to see, okay, when am I going to give this my attention? When am I going to give this version my attention? So I would like to see, actually, if it's possible, it kind of come out in those lull periods, and then all of a sudden you go on, you really get to jam on those vanilla servers.
Well, that would be ideal, and that would also give players extra things to do. And if people were able to just go over and play legacy servers whenever the live servers, like everything that they wanted to do has been done, it would give them a whole other world, literally, of content. And I think that'd be amazing, even for the people that don't like it, and it would even probably help the live servers because it would give people that are playing on the legacy servers an opportunity to try the new game as well. A lot of people bring up the point that, only people are going to quit and play Legacy. There are going to be many people who play Legacy and they're like, yeah, this is fun. They try out the actual game and they play that too. So it's a win-win.
I also think that there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to play both. You can say, okay, we have raid nights on Wednesdays on the vanilla servers, and the rest of the days we raid on the normal servers, and that's something that will happen fairly often.
I mean, it depends on how much time you can allocate to playing World of Warcraft in your life.
Hey, once vanilla servers are back, time is off the question.
I'm going to be completely honest, I could see myself going way more hardcore on vanilla servers when they do come
Really?
back. Yeah, because I actually want to be good. Like, I was so bad in vanilla. Like, I'll be honest, like, I was like 8 or something.
I never even raided in vanilla.
Can you imagine being good in vanilla? Like, we should just be able to like stop it, right? I mean, like,
it's gonna be a joke.
Like think about mechanically how much the game's changed. Like, I didn't know how to kick probably until I was 14.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I'm 27 and I still don't know.
I mean, just only looking at the meter ever.
One thing that I wanted to get to maybe chime in is, they said that they would take some time to produce some Blizzard quality servers. Yeah. And what does that mean? Does that mean that the
means
quality...
they're going to be good.
Yeah, true, always. But will they implement LFR in vanilla? Will they implement queuing? No?
Why are you guys looking at me when he asked that question? Give me a break.
I mean,
I don't think they'll change it at all.
You don't think so?
I think that it's going to straight up be vanilla. I just think it's going to work. Like, I think that that's the main thing that they're going to make sure of, because one of the things that they called back to as well, they were like, we want to give you vanilla, but not with the launch experience of vanilla, right? So maybe the servers will be as beefed up as we currently have, but it'll feel the exact same.
Well, I mean, I think that it's going to be like it was, and I mean, a lot of people have like ways that they can play vanilla now, but none of them are very good, and all of them are very tainted by a dozen different problems behind the scenes that people probably don't even know about. And so seeing a legitimate vanilla Blizzard experience, I think would be amazing, not only for people that are going to go back and play it for nostalgia, but also for the new players to give them that same experience that a lot of people got 10 years ago, and that's one of the big reasons why they're in this room today.
All right, starting with you, Alan. What do you think you're actually going to play on vanilla, though?
What am I going to play?
Are you? Yeah.
Oh, I kind of want to. Okay, so
Balance sheets.
story time.
Vanilla.
In Burning Crusade, I used to be a warrior,
really?
and I used to be a really bad warrior. I used to try to tank and lost aggro every time. I got kicked from many guilds, so I want to redeem myself, and I want to play a warrior, so I might tank.
No,
You know,
oh, okay, that's cool. Jury Warriors are so broken in vanilla.
That's why I'm going to play one.
Yeah, all right, so I have basically, my future could either be I play Affliction Warlock again and only put up COE, or is
They have
COE
Shadow Ball.
They do have Shadow Ball. All I would be doing is Curse of Elements, I feel like. And then mages just get to dump on me on the meters.
Frostbolt.
I think I might just play mage. Sophia, what do you think you're going to be playing?
I'm absolutely going to be playing priest.
God,
Absolutely.
A priest?
You know, of course, right?
Get Benediction.
That's what I was just going to say. You know, my transmog currently with one of my many priests is with Benediction, and it's like, that's my baby. You know, I can't wait to play and then do the quests for Benediction, because they were hard as hell, and I did them in Wrath of the Lich King, and it was still hard, and I still died on a level 60 quest. So I am so excited about that.
It's going to be amazing.
Throughout that entire thing, I feel like Asmongold was trying to mentally construct your transmog just to rate it. And I saw his face, he was like,
Do you
Yeah.
want to hear about it?
Sure.
It's the yellow set from Dark Moon Fair. It's the yellow set
Why?
with the Benediction, because it's yellow, because it's gold, it matches.
What are you, a banana?
I'm a banana. It's awesome. Come on. You,
A healing banana.
get out of here. It's so good. She looks amazing. I mean, it's one of the priests. I have like 5.
do you mind if I take
my
that
God.
name for Legacy?
Healing banana.
Healing Banana. Guys, look me up. I'll be there. Healing Banana.
That would be
Healing banana.
me. What the hell?
So all of that said, we've kind of touched on legacy servers and the fact that we're all pretty excited.
Yes.
What do you think? I touched on the fact that it's going to be a lot easier than it was the first
It's a joke. I mean, go look at all the bosses in Next. I mean, like, what's Thaddeus? You go left or you go right. You got a plus, you go right. You got a minus, you go left. That's
feel
it.
like
That's the whole thing.
that-
It's done.
No, but at the
That
same time, you
swaps,
forget.
doesn't it?
You
I feel like
forget.
that's the most complex fight probably in Next.
I don't think that's the
Yeah, it
hardest thing
swaps
about
every
vanilla.
15 seconds.
I
The
think
hardest
it'll
part about
admit it.
vanilla was because you had to go on Thoughtbot to figure anything out. And
That's
then,
fine.
and then
Not
you're
even that.
playing on a computer from 1995.
Exactly, that was the
Yeah.
hardest part. You know, you had a
think it'll-
potato
Yeah, you're
PC
playing on a
and
Game
you're running
Boy.
with 3 FPS. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
we were like, the world wasn't good at video games yet. Like straight up, like you couldn't. Like when you look right now, all of a sudden everyone kind of knows what they're doing. Look at some of the people, like you look at players from like Method, for example, and figure out how to do different things with your rotation. Like there are so many resources out there. People are just really good at video games now. And every year we get better and better and better and better because that's the goal of humanity, I think, as a whole. I'm sorry to get really
To get better
deep
at video games?
Yeah, that's it. That's our focus.
Hey, that's my goal, right?
That's right.
But when vanilla came out, people weren't good yet. Like I'll just be completely honest. Like we weren't good yet.
No.
And now we're good.
That's
we're
right.
really good.
We're good.
Well, people are going to stomp the raids.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, it's going to happen. The vanilla is not about being hard. It was hard back then in a way, but the hardest part about 40-man raids was 40 people, right? That was the hardest thing, getting everybody to get in there and not having people cry and hate each other and leave the guild. Like, that was the real difficulty about vanilla, and it was that personal interaction and that social atmosphere that really built the game.
I feel like you were probably one of those guys making people cry. And
Yeah, probably.
Well, I was in Burning Crusade. I was too young because I sounded like a kid. I was like 16, right? And so then whenever I got older, that's whenever I got to make people
is that
cry.
how old we were?
I was 16.
I was saying we're the same age, so I've been saying that I was 8 and I was 16. So I
I
don't.
think I was like 15 when it started, but I started at the end of vanilla, so I
was
just
a-
saw my friends play raid, and I was like, okay, maybe one day I'll raid.
I was a dumb 15-year-old then. 'Cause I'm just like remembering how I actually played the game. But I'm really excited to get in there, and I kind of want to get Scarab Board. Like that's the main thing. That,
If you're
think
going to be in my
everyone-
guild, I'm going to be getting Scarab Board.
I think
you're gonna be
now that
playing
you
against
saw
everyone.
it, it's only on my mind. Like I really, really want Scareboard.
Yeah.
So you better not be on my
Benediction all the
server.
way.
Funny.
That's
so we have basically legacy servers eventually. We
Yeah,
know that they're eventually gonna be coming.
no time date, nothing like that. I would assume that they're going to come out towards the end of the next expansion.
So
Like,
that gives us
that's what I
time to
would expect.
prepare, though.
Oh,
Mentally.
yes.
Time to prepare.
Oh, yes.
Now the main thing is we're going to be getting ready for the new expansion. We still have a little bit of Legion ahead of us as well.
That's right.
And this new tier looks really exciting.
Yes.
Did they announce anything about like when it's going to be coming out?
No, no release date.
I wonder if that will be the main thing that I want to talk about right now. We only have a few minutes left before we have to hop off the stage. But what else do you think we'll actually learn about while we're here at BlizzCon? Because that's always kind of the thing. You have the overarching announcement. You see the giant bucket, and then it starts to fill up over the course of the week.
You know that I was talking to a friend of ours, and he said that we will be able to stream the future expansions content tomorrow.
Oh boy.
Whoa.
Oh boy, indeed.
Well, I believe people are streaming already, so I think we'll be able to try out at least the zones.
Okay, so that's going to be the new zones, right?
Yep.
So I wonder if you see the new zones, inherently you have to play a tune, so you might actually even see some of the...
I don't think that they're going to let you play the sub races. I mean, they might be able to, but I'm assuming they're probably tooling all those for all of the old items and everything, because that would probably take a long time. I mean, the main thing that I would expect to probably see is more clarifications on systems. So what's going to happen with the legendary system? What's going to happen with the artifact power, artifact weapon system? What's going to happen, if anything, with the Titan forging system? Are we going to have, static gem slots again, reforging, item upgrades, etc.? Those answers will probably come out tomorrow or later on today. And that's at least what I'm hoping for.
What are the other panels that are actually going down?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep track of everything right now, but this BlizzCon's been absolutely crazy.
It's just the morning. Well, it's just like the first day, the first beginning.
Like
is
information
already
overload.
manic. It's
Yeah,
information overload. Absolutely.
I cried a little bit.
I absolutely cried. I was there just like, oh my god.
It's crazy that the emissary, like, it's not crazy. Like the emissary and the world quest system was great to pass time.
Yes.
Like it was a great filler, and they said that they were really, really happy. I just hope that legendaries aren't in the emissary chests. I just hope that you can earn them through the raids.
I hope they're redesigned, and I hope that they work completely differently.
But here's the thing, and there are always upsides and downsides to everything.
Yeah.
There was a level of excitement every time that you actually did open one of those boxes, but I think that
It diminished.
It's diminishing, indeed.
But there are also maybe different ways to find it when we jump in. Maybe some of that can be centered around the medallion. I think that's kind of one of the things that I want to see, even if it's not necessarily in like a huge power spike way. I would love to see if Emissary Quest maybe affected the medallion in ways that changed your utility as a player.
I think the main thing that they have to overcome is to prevent RNG from defining your character. And that's something that Legion...
It still keeps some RNG.
Oh, I'm not saying, I don't hate RNG. What I hate is whenever RNG is...
So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't hate RNG at all, but if you get the bad legendary, you're 10, 20% DPS behind people. And yes, of course, they did rebalance them, but there are still the best and the worst legendaries. And it's the same with Titan Forging as well. If they're able to give players alternatives for that, I think that the expansion will probably be a lot more rewarding for people that like to work towards things.
Now, we're just running out of time here, and as you can see, we barely scraped the surface, and we're going to be finding out a lot more information soon. So we'll definitely be doing an Allcraft next week where we can actually deep dive into everything. So be sure to stay tuned. But I want to take a second here to thank all of you, because we wouldn't be here at BlizzCon on this stage right now if we didn't have the support from you guys. It's been absolutely insane. I still can't even believe that this is real life. So thank you all. Thank you all. And also, thank you, Blizzard, for letting us
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. Like, we didn't think that 8 months later, this project that we started out for fun, like just friends having a chat on stream,
Asmongold was supposed to be our guest, and he just stayed on the show.
I just never left.
He was just too comfy with us.
We didn't even, I personally didn't even know Zach, and then we jumped in, and he was just like, hey, do you guys mind if I stay?
It's like you guys just called me the next week. Like, hey, do you want to be on this week? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Let's do
it.
it.
Yeah, I've got some more stuff to complain about. Let's go.
All right, thank you so much, Sophia, too, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next week for another episode of Allcraft.
Thank you.